Okay, and we are live. Seems like my microphone is working. It's actually been a while since I last streamed, and I'm not sure if my setup is still set up correctly, so all of... How many are you here? 3 people watching. Wow, that's a record breaking. If you can tell me if the audio is working, that would be great. I mean, it looks like it should be, but I don't have any real way to check if it's actually making its way to the stream. Now today you can see from the title of this video that today we will be working on a snake game using GMS2 Studio 2. Shouldn't be too hard. I've decided to go with snake because it's rather simple really. There's a couple tricks that you can use to make snake games far easier to work with than some people seem to think. And because it's been a while since I last streamed, it's actually been a while since I used Game Maker, really. So I thought it would be a nice project to get myself back in. So I guess we could get started with thinking about just how this is going to work. Now, Snake, I'm going to try recreating maybe some starting... recreating one of the earlier snakes first, and then move on to maybe recreating some of the snake games that I can remember on the old Nokia phones and so on, that were a bit more involved than just the basic snake. Hello to Intelligent. Yeah, I can't believe you haven't seen one of my streams before. It's been a while since I even saw you in person, so hi. Okay. So I guess we can get started with a basic tile set. So I'm going to be working with tiles. I feel like every single one of my streams has been using tiles, but tiles are great, and Snake just happens to be one of those games that you can create using tiles. I'm going to start off with a fairly simple version of Snake, as I said earlier. Where I'm only going to have a single tile essentially, which is where the snake is. So let's quickly, forgot how this works, toggle the grid over here and create our snake tile, which is there's going to be a white right square. In fact, let's do this no, this should be fine. Next we can create our actual tile set, which shouldn't be too hard either. Just tactile sprite, and we're gonna go 32 by 32, like so. Really, I don't need a tile set since, at least for this, since it's just a single pixel. I don't even need Game Maker really, but as we're gonna start fleshing it out, adding more fancy graphics and so on, it's gonna come in handy. Now I guess we'll just set up a room real quick so that we have something to work with. We're not really, well, I guess we are going to have instances, but they're not really going to do much since everything is going to live on a tile. So on a tile map, that is. Just going to select our tile map right here, and let's quickly go into. This seems like it would be about the right size for a snake game. So let's save that and let's actually get into the code. So the way this is going to work is using a grid. We represent where the snake head is and where the tails are and so on, using just numbers. So I think it'll make more sense if I start actually implementing the code by first creating an object, which is going to be our snake game object. I think that for this particular project, a single object, maybe 2, should be enough to get us at least started. It doesn't really need to be visible, it's only going to deal with our tile map. Actually, that's something we need to do, is actually name this something. And this is going to be, how do I rename something? Is it F2? I'm renaming the room for some reason. I want to rename this tile map. This is going to be our tiles snake. And that allows us to go back inside. Let's close this, we don't need this anymore. Start here, add a create event. And we don't need this room anymore, so it's tile snake. This is a bit big. No, cancel. Again, it's been a while since I used GameMaker. I don't quite remember the keyboard shortcuts. So we're going to start off with finding our snake tile map. So we're going to say snake tile map equals layer get ID, is it? Yes, layer get ID, and we are looking for snake tiles. So that is our tile map sorted. We're also going to, so really a tile map could store all the information we need. However, we're gonna keep this simple and use a DS grid. I was thinking about using the tile map to store the extra information we need, such as where the head is and how long the tail is and so on, which is perfectly doable since tile maps have some spare data that we can hijack. However, that means lots of bit shifting. It means lots of, well, what in GameMaker is fairly slow operations. I would definitely be using that in a language like C++ or something where these operations would be fairly cheap. However, in GameMaker it's not the case. It's much easier and cheaper just to go with an extra grid. That being said, if I ever choose to work more on this project and make it I'll make it for mobile or something, I might want to make it more lightweight by just using the grid to avoid using more RAM and so on, even though really the amount of RAM I'm going to use is incredibly small. So what we want is a grid which will store our snake information. I'm going to call it the snake grid. So snake grid equals ds grid and create. So now we need to decide how big our grid is going to be. And really we want it to be the size of our tile map, I guess. So what we should do, oh, I just realized, this here will not get us the tile map. This here will get us the layer. What we want is it tile map? Layer? Or layer tile map? I cannot remember the name of this. Layer tile map get ID, and I do believe this does allow us to use the name rather than the ID. Yes, or the layer name string. So this will get us the tile map. Here we go. So now we can get the width and height. I'm just going to call them width and height. So width equals tile map get width, I presume. Yeah, that probably snake tile map. And height equals tile map get height snake tile map. And now we can go ahead and put those in here. I'm gonna quickly have a look at how yes, that's all fine. Making sure I actually did put this on the Twitters to make sure people know I'm streaming. So now that we have our snake grid, we can probably initialize it. No, in fact it should be fine, because by default everything be 0, and everything being 0 means we have no tail. Now we need to decide on a length for our snake. I'm going to call that length, and it's probably going to start around 4. Seems like a good number. I don't know what the original used. I don't think it really matters for this. And now we can start placing our snake down. So the way this is going to work is our grid is going to hold how far away from the head the current snake part is. So the head will be 4. So if you have a length of 4, the head will be 4. The next segment along will be 3, and so on and so on. And then every time we move, we can just reduce everything by 1, and then create a new head, a new value of 4 or whatever length is in the next tile. And what's nice about that is, well, the tail piece will be 1, and so if we reduce it by 1, it'll get to 0, and then we don't decrease anything lower than 0. And it means we can really quite easily create our snake moving pattern that way. It's not super efficient, because it does mean we're updating the entire grid at a time. However, our grid is going to be fairly small, and reducing grid by 1 is actually very cheap. We can even actually use ds grid add grid region, and we can just add -1 to everything. Does that add a grid to another grid? Am I thinking of another? Does dsgrid add, and dsgrid add region takes another one? That's not exactly what I wanted. I wonder if there is... Okay, so that doesn't seem to be the function I was hoping for. dsgrid, nope. Okay, so I was hoping to be able to use dsgrid add, but that takes another grid for some reason. If you want to do a region, which is kind of a shame. So we're gonna have to do it manually, but either way, it will be fairly cheap, and there'll be ways to optimize this, which I might look into. Not sure if it will be faster to optimize it, depending on the size of your grid. So now I've stalled enough for time for me to think about how I wanted to do things. Let's create a script called init snake, and it's going to... What it's going to do is initialize the grid with a snake, and it's going to take as a parameter, is it param? At param? It's going to take the x position and the y position of where we want our snake. It's also going to take a length, and it should also probably... I feel like param is the wrong at. It's probably something else, but I don't remember exactly. It should probably also take the grid that we are going to modify. So var grid equals argument 0, var x, can't use x, let's use px equals argument 1, var py equals argument 2, var l equals argument 3. So that should be that. The first thing we want to do is clear our grid, so we're going to do ds grid set grid region set region. Oh, do I have add region? Oh, we do have add region. Okay, so we do have the function we want to add a whole value to the entire grid, and the advantage of this is that we'll be leveraging the power of the game maker internals instead of GML, which is going to be much faster, also much easier to use. So here we'll give it the grid ID, which is grid. The x, I don't want dsgrid add actually. I want dsgrid set region. There we go. So the grid ID, the x and y, which is 0, 0, then width and height. Okay, so I don't have the grid width and height, but I can do ds. I can say var w equals ds grid width grid, and var h equals ds grid width grid. I should have prepared some water for this stream and I forgot, but that's okay. Width and height and the value of 0. So you want to start everything at 0. Now the reason I'm initializing this grid to 0, even though when you create a grid it should already be 0, is that I would like to be able to reinitialize our snake game when the game, in the middle of a game, say if we press the restart key or something like that. So the next stage is to actually create our snake. So we can say let's always assume that our snake will be created towards the left, so the head will be on the right of our snake, because I think that's how most games I've played would do it. So we're going to say for int I equals 0. It's not int, it's var, isn't it? I is smaller than L, which is the length of the snake, I plus plus. We're going to set our, tell you what, let's start at L and go downwards. If we start at 4, then we're gonna get 3, 2, that should be good. Maybe it should be greater or equal to 0. Or I plus L plus 1 maybe, perhaps? Yeah, this is gonna be 4, 3, 2, 1, okay, no, L. Because yes, that should be That should be right. So we can say ds, we could just do this, grid, use accessors. We want at px, py to be equal to to I, that is. Because I will start at whatever length is and then go down. And now we want to move up px by 1 so that we can get this to the edge. We should probably do some error handling so that we don't initialize a snake which is too long. So we can say if px is smaller than 0, let's just throw an error. Show error snake out of bounds and true. Snake out of bounds, snake init out of bounds. That should be fine. And that should be it, I think, for generating our snake. We're just creating a line, making it smaller every time. So here we can init our snake. We take the snake grid. We take our x and y. Let's create it. Let's create a 2020. Let's create it in the center. So let's do width over 2, height over 2, and the length of length. Now we want a function to actually display our snake onto our tile map. So let's create a new script called snake grid to tile map. I know these are fairly long names, but at least they are descriptive. Displays the snake grid onto the tile map. It's going to take as parameters the grid, probably, and the tile map. And that should be it, I think. We probably could modify it later if we want to add more fancy features. The first thing we want to do is actually initialize our variables. So tile map equals argument 1, and grid is argument 0. So now we can clear our tile map. So we can do tile map clear. That's an actual function. That's nice. Tile map and tile data is gonna be 0. And now we can start displaying it. So we can do tile map. We want to have a double for loop because we want to go through all of the places in our grid and add it, sort of blit it to our tile map. So we can do for int ix equals 0, not int, var ix equals 0, ix is smaller than, let's get the grid width. So we can do var w equals ds grid width grid, var h equals ds grid height grid. You may be noticing that I am not going to rely on instance variables very much. I'll be passing in the information I need. The reason for that is not a very good one. Really, in GameMaker, you should probably rely on your instance variables if you're making a small project like this one, at least. However, I've been trying to practice not doing that so that my larger projects become more sustainable. Not sure if it works out, if it'll work out well, but it is something I'm trying out. So this is why you'll see myself passing in more variables than I really need to. And often also getting the width and height when I could just use the width variable, which I already declared. And ix++. Let's create the OI iterator. All right, so here we are. We can start getting the information from our grid. So we can say tile map at ix. Oh, I can't do that, can I? It's a tile map set. Tilemap element ID is going to be tilemap. Tile data, let's set it to, okay. So I was hoping that we would be able to do things slightly more nicely than that, but we will have to do it this way. We'll have to say that if the grid at ix, iy, so if there is a value there, if it's not 0, then we can set it to 1, and selx will be ix, iy. So this should copy our grid onto our tile map, sort of. If it's any value greater than 0, then we set our tile map to 1. So now inside our creates event, we can do snake grid to tile map. Grid is snake grid, and tile map is tile map. I actually might change this somewhat. Rather than clearing the tile map here, I think I'll clear it outside. The reason for this is that we would like to be able to add our snake to the tile map and then add other features to it one by one in different functions. So being able to clear it externally rather than internally will help us kind of compound, maybe putting the snake onto a tile map, then putting the power-ups and so on, which should make it easier. It will mean updating the tile map quite a lot, but we can probably optimize that later. So that should be it, just to get our tile map showing with a simple snake. So let's go into our instances, drag in our snake game object, and run the game, see if we get 4 tiles, one next to each other. And we get a thing, get snake init out of bounds. So, why? Why do we get this? Let's see. We say when px is more than 0. Okay, this is interesting. Because we pass in width over 2, which should be larger than... which should hopefully be larger than 4. And we pass in... Okay, so let's over here, let's do some debugging. Let's show debug. I was not expecting an error this early. Show a debug message, and we're going to say string px. Let's just see what our value is. Make sure that it's something sensible. We get minus 0.5. Aha, specify tile map not found over here. That is some good debugging info from GameMaker there. I probably gave it the wrong name, so let's press F12 again here. Tiles snake, not snake tiles. Okay, let's rename this to snake tiles because it's a much better name. Snake tiles. Let's try that now. Nope. Could not set before reading it. Tile map clear. Does not work for some reason. Tile map is not a snake tile map, of course. And I think, no, I am running in the VM, okay. And I wrote width for the h variable. Let me check. So we do get this right. This is nice. Width for the h variable. Oh, so I did. Good spot. This would have been an issue later on. So yeah. I'm surprised this doesn't give me an error down here, since this was technically out of bounds. But now, at least, I've got this working. I should probably do some... no, this should be fine. So now we can start moving our snake. So let us get a new script called snake move, and let's go full screen on that one. Close this. So this will move our snake in a direction. Sure. It will take as a parameter. It will take the snake grid and the direction in the let's do the script I always create called directions, and let's create our macros. Global dot directions equals I can't remember exactly. I should really create this script a lot because I never quite remember how I do it. So we have directions, we have up, left, right, down. Let's actually make this nicer. Oh no, this is fine. Up, left, right. Let's just do left, right, up, down. And now we can have global dot directions. I should probably, this will be 0, 1, 2, 3. Global directions, or let's call it, I don't quite like that name. Directions is probably gonna be okay. Let's create a double nested for loop, double nested, just a nested array. So left will be -1, 0. Right will be 1, 0. Then we have up, which is 0, -1, and down, which is 0, 1. Directions equals, there we go. And this, we need to pragma it. So it is, oh, hello, Raildo, I don't know, Raildo, thanks for the sub. And I'm sorry, I probably completely mispronounced your name. Let's call GML pragma. And it is GML, what? It is global. Oh, it's been such a long time since I've used GameMaker. Global, and we're calling directions.gm, directions. So this will initialize our global directions global here. And basically this gives us the X and Y axes of these directions up here. So now in here we can take a direction, which is the enum. That should be it. So the first step is to reduce everything. Oh wait, no. We need one more thing. We need the length of our snake. So the first thing we will do is reduce everything in our grid by 1. So we can do, well, actually, first let's get our arguments. Var dir equals argument 1. Var L equals argument 2. So as I said, we're going to add to our grid from 0, 0, we need the width and height. So var W equals ds grid width, grid. No, yes, grid, that's right. Var H equals ds grid height, grid WH, and then our value, which is -1. So we're adding -1 to the entire grid. And now we can create the head. Oh, right. We need to keep track of the current position. Well, we could either keep track of the current position. Yes, that's probably the best way of doing it. I was thinking we could keep track of the current position of the snake, or we could find the highest number, which it's probably much easier and cheaper just to pass in the position of our snake. So we can say head px head x, sure, head y. Var, let's call it px. Var py equals argument 4. And so now we can get our new head position. Oh, this is going to be interesting, because this is changing our, this is changing some variables. See, this is when I don't want to be stateful, but I'm going to have to. Yes, I think I'm going to have to, because it's going to change our head x and head y. So, okay, let's rename this to snake update, because it's also going to do some more stuff. Snake update. Oh, I spelled this wrong, didn't I? Snake update. Updates snake. Okay, what it's going to do is probably not take any arguments, because it's going to work directly from our objects. And I know what I said earlier about not doing that. It's going to be a problem if we don't do that. So let's quickly go here and say head x equals width over 2, head y equals height over 2. That being said, I'm not sure why I'm using a script for this, since it's only going to be called once, but yeah, it makes it easier. Oops. Makes it easier to see on stream, I guess. Head x, head y. Okay, so our snake update will take nothing actually. We're just going to have a direction. Let's call it snake dir equals, and it's going to start off at directions dot right. We want to move to the right to start off with. So this is pretty much has to be called on our snake game object, or I guess instance. So the first step is to remember what this was called as a snake grid, and width height, I think is what I called them. And it's going to give us this. Now we can update our head position, so we can say var dx equals var d equals global directions, and then snake dir var dx equals d0, var dy equals d1. And this is some code that I've been writing a lot. If you watched, let's see, my Bomberman stream, I used that in there. Well, that's the only one I can think of right now. But I've been using this code a lot. If you watch my tutorial on RPG style movement, like Pokemon style movement, I've also been using that kind of code there, I believe, where I store a direction as an enum and then have an array to tell me what the x and y component of that direction is. Sometimes I'll even have it so that I'll be able to bit them together, and that allows me to build up like the walls, which sides should collide and so on. I think, I don't remember if I made that tutorial or not about one-way walls. Probably something I should make, because I was quite proud of that code. But yes, so D will now hold the array with the x and y component, and I decompose it here into dx and dy. That allows me to do head x plus equals dx and head y plus equals dy. And I can do ds grid set, or just snake grid head x head y equals, did I just call it length? probably did just call it length. Yeah. Which means, excuse me, we can go into the step. Well, we don't want it to update every step. That would be a bit hardcore. So let's instead, can we use an alarm? I guess we could just use an alarm. Down here we can do alarm 0 equals, let's say every 30 frames or so. That's too slow, maybe 20. We can tweak that. Well, we should actually have a variable for this called update time or speed. Update frames. Update delta. What would be a good name for like number of frames between updates? Frames per update? It's too long. Update speed will be just fine. Set it to 20 for now. Let's go to alarm 0. Go to, is that not a thing? Add open event, here's the one. Alarm 0. We're gonna reset our alarm. And then we will be calling snake update. And then we can do tile map. Actually, we'll just copy the code from here. Tile map clear and snake grid to tile map. Save that. I'll move this over here. And this should, with this we should see, yeah, with this we should see our snake moving across the map, unless we get directions. Directions already taken. Oh, because of the script name. Okay, let's rename this to directions in all caps, since it's kind of a macro style thing. Enum name is invalid. Right, because that's the name of our script now. Ooh, this is gonna be painful. Directions underscore, sure. Or maybe just underscore directions. There we go. Not super nice, but names are hard. And here we have it. We have a snake moving across our level. And it was fairly simple. Let's make this faster. We can probably make this twice as fast. As you can see, the updating of the script is actually fairly simple. We subtract one from everything in our grid, and then we just update the head position, and then we create a new head every time. And yeah, we're well on our way to do some more code, because now we want to change directions, and that is also fairly simple. We can go and key pressed left. We can now say snake dir equals directions dot left, and we can pretty much do the same thing for each of our key press. So snake dir equals directions dot, which one is this, right? Key press up, snake dir equals directions in all caps dot up, down, snake dir equals directions in all caps, of course, down. And now we should be able to to move our snake around. And what's nice is that if we want to change the snake direction, is literally just setting that variable. So as you can see, I can tap the thing whenever I want. Oh, you may find issues like I can eat myself right now. Like I can go back over myself. I can go backwards, which shouldn't be allowed. But yes, this is mostly it. As you can see, I can move around. I could even make my snake longer. Let's make it like 6 long. And as you can see, the tail updates quite nicely. It's really quite a neat trick. I wouldn't be surprised if this is how the original snake did it, because it's really quite simple and fairly efficient actually from a compute standpoint. There's a couple optimizations you can make, obviously. But yes, it's not something that I came up with, not by far. It's something I did see online. And I got reminded of it recently when someone also posted it to the GMC. So that was probably the inspiration for this stream. So now that we have our snake moving around, we also want to add power-ups. Now we're gonna stick with the more classic snake for now, and make our not the power-ups, but the food items. Make the food items be the same color as us. Now I'm going to make this update still twice as fast for next time, because this was a bit slow. But we're going to be able to make our length longer by eating up our power-ups. And to do this, we're going to create another grid, which we're going to call the food grid. ds grid create width height. Now, actually, we could reuse the same snake grid. We could have our snake grid here store positive numbers for what's snake and maybe -1 for food items. However, as we add more features, that may not be the best option. Ooh. And I see someone, Seabass. Oh, hello, Seabass. How are you doing? Yeah, face for the name. Yeah. This is me. How are you doing? Food grid, yes. So yes, I could have it inside in grid, but as we add more different kinds of features, if we want to add more features, having a separate grid would be nice. Again, really, if I wanted to be memory efficient, I would put everything inside one tile map and use the extra bits to store everything that we need. So we are going to create a script to randomly place a food item on the grid. So we're going to call this add random food. And it's going to add a random food item on the grid. And Seabass is just cruising by. Well, hope you can stay for the stream though, because I think it's gonna be a fun one if I manage to get some of the features I want to get in. It's really quite a simple stream feature game, really. I mean, this is all we need to make our snake move around, which is pretty cool. But yeah. Oh, I lost my train of thought about what I was doing. Add a random food item on the grid. Yes, of course. This is why you add descriptions to your scripts, so that when you get distracted, you remember what you were doing. So we're gonna take a grid. Sure, let's take the grid. That way I'll be able to call it from different places. Is that ever going to be needed? That's probably not going to be needed. So let's just do var. Okay, so we don't want to spawn a food thing on the snake. So we want to have both our snake grid and our food grid available, and I don't want to be passing in too much information at a time. So we're just going to make this another one of those scripts which has to be called from our OSnake game object. The first step is to find a point on the grid which isn't used by the snake, so we're going to have a do while loop. Or is it a do until? Oh, it's a do until, isn't it? Okay, so we do do var px equals irandom width, var py equals irandom height, and we're going to do this until snake grid px py equals 0. I just realized something. Okay, until it is smaller or equal to 0. If we look at this code here, update snake is going to remove 1 from everything, even if it's 0. That's not super efficient, really. We could make this more efficient by writing our own loop. We will make it more efficient still by keeping track of what squares are currently part of the snake and which aren't. But this does mean that we're going to go into negative numbers right now. So we're going to use this smaller equals 0 to make this easier. And hey, Concept Boy. Yes, it has been a while. It's been a while since I streamed. Because there's been a lot of university work and so on. Oh, okay, are you streaming right now? Or have you just been streaming recently then? Snake grid. Oh yes, then we can just do food grid at px py equals 1. And then we just want a new script, which will be food grid to tilemap. You're about to start a stream working on some concept art. Cool. Oh yes, I saw, was it on Twitter, that you posted those cool black and white lighting moody pictures. I don't know, I could probably pull some of those on stream if I can find you, Concept Boy. Definitely worth checking out. Do I not? Are you called something? Oh, you're called Mouse Thatch, aren't you? Yes, I'll pull those on stream for you. Yeah, definitely some cool stuff. Yes, I love those God rays. As part of a kind of graphics demo, I've been working on God rays a lot, and I really like them. So it's cool to see them here. It reminds me a lot of that. What game was that called? Ooh, Limbo, is it? It reminds me a lot of that aesthetic. And the game that made by the same guys that they made afterwards, can't remember the name. Very cool looking though, with those nice greenhouses and stuff. Cool work, definitely worth checking out some of Concept Boy's stuff. Looking in LinkedIn Networks. Yes, I think if you stick to 2D, you could do some stuff in GM like this, but for 3D, yes, Game Maker would not be the right tool for sure. Food grid to tile. So we're going to do the same thing pretty much as we did inside snake grid to tile. I'm just going to copy this code actually and modify. It displays the food grid onto tile map, grid tile map. That's pretty much it actually. It's the exact same code. This will change as different functions change. This will change as the graphics change, sorry, is what I mean. Right now we're using only one tile, so we can use the same one. But as we have different food items and so on, we will be able to use different tile sets and it will look a lot better. And we'll need to actually have different scripts. So setting these up now is nice. So here we can do snake grid to tile map, and we can do food grid to tile map, and we'll use the food grid and the snake tile map, I guess, because we're using the same one. We will have to change that later, but for now we're using a single tile map, so it should be fine. Of course we should add our random food. Did this take a grid? No, it didn't. So let's just add random food like this. So if we run it, we should see pretty much the same thing as before, but there'll be a random square somewhere. Yes. And we can, of course, not eat it because we didn't write that code. So let's go to our snake update and write the food eating. Eat food. So we'll simply say if food grid at head x, head y, let's put a space over here so it doesn't get confused. So if there was something to eat, we can say food grid at head x, head y equals 0 and add random food. Oh, and of course, length plus plus. One more thing we want to change inside add random food is also make sure that there is not already food here. Now, for most games, you only have a single food item on the grid at a time. However, if you wanted to add more, if you wanted to spawn multiple random bits of food, you wouldn't want them to spawn on the same place at the same place. So we're going to add an extra ampersand thing. And food grid at px py is equal to 0. And let's just quickly, here we go. And now if we run it, we should be able to eat food. In Livestream, I was able to running an FPS set now with 30 lines of code. Huh, neat. That is actually not that much, though not unexpected for an engine. But as you can see, we can now eat pieces of food. Oops, I missed that one. Oh. Here we go. Do we get longer? I don't feel like... Are we getting longer? Oh yeah, just about. Yeah, no, this is working. So as you can see, we can now eat bits of food, get longer and longer as we eat more food. So this is pretty much a snake game without like the losing condition, because we can kind of like eat ourselves. So we need one more we need a few more things. We need a losing condition. We also need to stop us from going back on ourselves. So for this we need two things. Let's first stop us going back on ourselves. We could just like a simple like solution would be to say, if I press left, instead of saying directions like snake deer equals directions dot left, I would first check if my direction was not right. But that's not enough, because that would allow me to press up and then left in a single like update cycle. So what we want is an actual feature to keep track of what our previous direction was. So we can say previous snake deer equals directions dot right. Of course, this is all caps. And now let's create a quick script called change deer, and as a parameter this will take a new direction. And this is pretty simple. We'll simply say if prev snake deer is right, we'll need to have opposites. So we could do we could have a big switch thing, or we could be slightly smarter about things. Let's look at this. If it's left, we're not allowed to go right. If it's up, we're not allowed to go down, and so on. So we need to somehow link these together mathematically, or we could have an opposites array. There's quite a few ways of doing things. This is 0, 1, 2, and 3. I could move this one. If I did it like this, we could check that the last bit is, so this is 0, 1, 2, and 3. So we can check if the last bit is the same. It's not very nice. Let's instead do this simple way. It's not any less efficient, but global dot opposite deer equals So left would be right, left, directions dot left, right, directions dot left, directions dot down, and directions dot up. It's not super nice. I should probably be doing the bit twiddling thing, because we're only ever gonna have 4 directions. Tell you what, that's what I'm gonna do, because it's slightly more interesting, I guess. Move this one over here. So we have to move this one over here. And now we can do the bit twiddling thing. So inside change dir, we can say if and no, we should probably take as a, oh yeah, no, we should use var new dir equals argument 0. If previous snake dir and 1, so this is getting the last bit. If it's not equal to previous to new dir and 1. So we're checking the last bit of our directions enum. Because if we look at the directions again, these will have the last bit as 0 and these will have the last bit as 1. So because we're only dealing with every 4 directions, this should do nicely. We can say snake dir equals new dir. And now inside key presses, we can replace this with change dir directions dot left. I'm gonna copy this. Change dir directions right. Change dir directions up. And change dir directions down. So now I'm able to change direction. Oh, I can't go left. That's weird. Hold up, I really need some water. Be back in just a sec. It's not working. Ah, much better. So somehow we weren't able to go left when we're going up. Maybe my bit twiddling isn't quite right, which wouldn't surprise me. No, see, oh, when I go up, I can't go right or left. Interesting. So this is 0, 1, 2, and 3. And these are left, up, right, down. I don't see what the issue is. I don't update previous snake there. Thanks. Oh, Joe Theis. I should know. I should know how you pronounce this name. I don't though. Theis. I think it's Dutch, right? I don't. That is 100% the issue. Snake update, I guess. No. Yes, snake update. I can just do previous snake dir equals snake dir. There we go. Good spot. I completely forgot. So now we're able to change directions, but we're not able to go back on auto. I'm pressing left right now and it's not going left. I have to actually change a 90-degree angle. And if I try to change directions really quickly, it doesn't work. I cannot, like, in a single frame, change my direction twice. Which is why we have the previous snake there, and we don't just check the snake there every time. Otherwise, in a single like update, we would be able to change really quickly. I should point out that I'm using alarms for the update cycles. I could just lower the frame rate and put put that in the step event, which is probably what most games, what the game would have done at the time. But as I'm going to add features, animations, and stuff, we will want to be able to update the graphics more than we update the snake. So we are being wasteful on the update cycles, but Okay, so now we need to be able to lose when we eat ourselves. Should be fairly simple once again. How long have I been streaming for? Like an hour? Okay, we're at about an hour. That's good. So that means I should be able to add the loose condition right about now. Snake grid update. Eat snake. We can say if. Okay, we're gonna have to move this up. So before we update, before we actually write to the grid, we want to check that where our head is, there isn't a snake there. So we say, let's say eat snake is going to be what I'm calling it. If snake grid, is that what I want? That's right. If snake grid head X head Y. I feel like I'm treating this as kind of a tutorial, but it really isn't. If it's greater than 0, so if there is something, somehow do lose condition. So we could do game restart for now, I guess, as a quick check. Oh, we also want to check that we are inside our world still. So let's do var 8 snake equals this, and then you can say var 8 wall, I guess, equals to head X being greater than 0, smaller than 0, or head X being greater than or equal to width, or head Y being smaller than 0, or head, that's heat, no, head Y being greater or equal to height. And then we can say if 8 snake or 8 wall game restart. Game restart isn't particularly nice, but I don't want to write a state machine right now. I'll deal with it later. So right now we are able to, go against the wall. This wall also kills us. Let's try this one down here. Let's try the one over there. That all seems fine. And if we try to eat ourselves, we restart. Let's make us a bit longer so it's a bit easier to see what's going on. I might add input buffering to make it easier to control, so you can do like 2 quick actions more quickly. I don't know, that may be too much though. Alright, so now you can see that. Okay, maybe one more to make it clear on stream. I think you can see that. Oh, you can end up eating yourself and restarting the game. So this is close to the original game, I guess. We can do better. Let's start making the graphics more fun. I could not have this game restart here. I really don't feel like writing a whole game over system. I feel like making a more interesting snake, I guess. This is the tile set. I want to change the sprite first. So we're going to start off by actually getting a head and tail like sprite going. So a head is pretty simple. A head is like, I don't know, a triangle. Yeah, that could be the snake's head, I guess. Oh, but it's going to depend on the direction. That's okay. We can... We can figure this out. We can rotate tiles, I think. And so the tail can be maybe a longer... Ooh, that means remembering the direction the tail was going in. all of a sudden this becomes quite a bit more complicated, because we need to remember what direction we were going in order to render our snake correctly. So now, on top of having to store the age of our tile, essentially, we also need to store its direction. We could solve that with a new grid, or we could do some bit twiddling, where we could use the higher bits, the higher, like the upper 4 bits or something, to store the direction. I guess we only need 2 bits to store the direction. So if we assume a 32-bit integer, or we could use the lower 2 bits for direction. No, I guess this would be more complicated. Oh, but if we do some bit twiddling, then our -1ing of the grid every frame won't work. So I guess we'll just use up more memory. Because really we're not using that much. So we have the snake grid. We could have the snake deer grid. DS. I mean, unless someone in the comments can think of a better way to store the direction we're going in while still being able to do our cheap. I guess if we have the direction, we don't need to do the -1 trick anymore. We can store 0 for no direction, or like -1 for no direction, and then we can check the tile on the right. If we were going to the right, say, or I guess this is your left, yes. So if we're going to the right, and on our left there isn't a tile, then we disappear. We could just do that, and we have our and we can easily get our opposite direction by XORing. Wait, how do we get the opposite direction again? We XOR the first bit or something like that? That'll probably work. I should really write a set of scripts to deal with directions like up, down, left, right directions more easily, because I keep writing the same scripts over and over again. But yes, instead of doing -1 every time, if we keep the direction around, we can do this quite easily as well. And it might be quite interesting. For now, let's just stick with having 2 grids. We can think about that later, depending on how this snake deer grid ends up being. In its snake, I guess it will take a direction as well. So if, yes, we need to be able to get the opposite direction. So let's do create script dir opposite. Does opposite have an E at the end? I really should learn English one day. Oh, it has 2 P's? Oh, damn. Dir opposite with 2 P's. Wait. That makes sense. That's how we write oppose. So yeah, okay. And that will basically give us the opposite direction. So if you have directions here, left is 0, right is 1. No, 2. Up is 1. Okay, so we basically do return argument 0 and 2. That should give us the, oh no, XOR 2. That should give us the opposite direction. Intelligent, yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. XOR is second bit. That's what I was thinking, and it's yeah. I'm trying to think if there isn't a better way. I mean, I guess there's always the store the opposite array thing, but bit twiddling is fun. So what were we doing? Right. We were doing the directions thing. So now we have direction. Instead of doing px minus minus, what we want to do is var od, which is the opposite direction, equals that. And then we can say px plus equals od 0, no, global directions? I should call this not direction, it's called global like axes or components or something. I never know what to call this. So if you guys, oh, I see the, okay. Yeah. var d equals this. Oh, I hate Game Maker sometimes. Okay. So px plus equals d0, py, this way we can change the direction. We also want to set our grid there. Okay, let's modify, sure. Let's take in another parameter. But I have a feeling this is going to be one of those scripts which becomes tied to the object because we're starting to pass in too many arguments and it's becoming a pain. So we can say grid px py equals d. Oh, d. I'm already using d. Let's call this dir equals dir. Sure. So now inside a create event in its snake, it's also going to take our snake dir grid. Nope, does it not like that? Zero, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What am I doing wrong? 0, 1. Right. I forgot to pass in the direction, didn't I? Snake dir. All right, so now we have the direction. Snake grid to tell map should take the direction into account. So what we want is a way to know, okay, we want to choose whether it's a head or a tail. So we can say if, let's do var tile index equals 1, and we could say if grid ix iy equals 0. No, if it's equal to 1, it's a tail. If it's equal to length, okay, this will become one of those scripts which is now tied to the object. Snake grid, because there's just too much to pass around. Oh, we already have width and height, so snake grid. If snake grid is equal to length, then tile index equals 1, 2, yeah. If snake grid, actually, do you guys know if inside a switch statement in Game Maker, can I pass, can the cases be variables, or do they have to be known at compile time? Because I know in most languages they need to be known at compile time. So it'll be cool to be able to replace this with a switch over here. That'd be nice. So here I got my tile index, but if we run it, you'll see it won't care about direction. So that's the next thing to fix. But at least we can check whether the head, not tile map, okay, yes. Tile map set. Tile map, that should be snake tile map, because we're not passing in the variables anymore. But now, okay, I'm just checking what's going on. Yeah, so as you can see, as we rotate, the head and tail doesn't rotate. But this is actually not too... Oh, that was interesting. When I die, it seems like the age is not set correctly. Something we can fix later. But first, what we want to do is global dot tile flags, I guess, equals. So when we're going to the left, we want to flip our tiles. We want to do tile mirror or tile rotate or tile flip. I don't remember which is which. So I think tile flip is this way and tile mirror is that way, if that makes any sense. Tile flip, oh, it doesn't say. Well, that's annoying. Tile layer functions, tile map, tile set flip. Okay, it doesn't say, which is fun, I guess. Can we set it inside the room so we can tell what's going on? Is there a way inside here? Do we have to do it inside the brush library? Because I do not remember which one is which. So let's create a brush builder. Yes, here we go. So this is flip, mirror is X, flip is Y. Cool. So if we're going to left, we want to mirror it. If we're going up, we want to, let's see, we want to rotate it once and then flip it. Tile rotate or tile flip. If we're going right, we don't want to do anything. And if we're going down, we want to just rotate. Tile rotate. This is actually something I should probably make a tutorial on, because these kinds of globals are really useful, because you can just give it a direction and it'll tell you what to do with your tile map. So now that we do snake grid to tile map, we can say tile index. Let's just call this tile data. So here we're setting the tile index, and then we can say tile data or equals, and then global dot tile flags for the direction we're going in. Snake, no, for the, so grid dir, what did I call it? Grid, snake dir grid at ix iy. Is or equals not a thing? Oh, there we go. So now the direction should be taken into account. It may be wrong, by flipping and mirroring may be the wrong way around, but oh. Snake dir grid. Oh yes, of course, it's a grid. So we need the grid accessor. And we still get something. Illegal array use is global tile flags is an array. Oh, but there's an array inside an, oh. Of course, these are not array. I don't know what I was thinking. So now we get another error. What is it this time? Tile index not set before reading it. Right. Yes. This is now tail data. So much refactoring. But now we should get, well, almost the right thing. We never write the direction, do we? When we update our snake update. Snake dir grid at head x head y is equal to snake dir. That should fix our issue. We may still get the wrong flipping and mirroring and all that. Alright, so, well, going down is right, going left is okay. Going up is wrong, however. Oh, and of course, we want to... Yes, so going up is wrong, so let's fix that first. Let's see. So we don't want tile flip, we want tile mirror. And then we need to change something else because our tail gets the wrong direction, because as we rotate, we are not changing the direction that we're going in. So the solution to that, what would the solution to that be? If someone can think of a neat solution for this. The problem is that, okay, no, this isn't too bad. This isn't too bad. We can update our, right here, we can change this by doing this over here. And that should fix our problem, because we'll be updating the direction just before we move the head. Yes, now our tail is correct, but our head is wrong. So we need to put this twice. We need to do it before we update and after we update. Yeah, so now it seems to be working just fine. We have a head and tail. We have just the issue of when we initialize, we get tails everywhere. I'm not entirely sure why that would be the case. Let's try running this again and see exactly what's going on. Yeah, so we got a whole bunch of tails. So when we initialize our snake, we set the value to I. Oh, and then we say grid to dir. That's not right. It should be dir grid. I don't, this shouldn't even have worked. Dir grid. Here we go. So now we're getting directions working, which is cool. There seems to be a couple issues sometimes when... Well, I thought I saw issues where the tail would disappear sometimes. No? Maybe it was just my imagination, but I thought I saw the tail disappear at some point. Oh, it's when I eat a piece of food. Yes, in that case, the length calculation won't be right, because it will reach a point, of course. The solution to that is to not use the length anymore and just base our solution on direction. However, the problem with basing it on direction is that if we go right behind our tail, it will have no way of knowing that what is the tail and what's the head anymore. So we're gonna ignore that for now. Yes, that's what I just noticed, Joe, that as we eat it, it becomes a square. That's because for just a second, for just one update, there will not be a value 1 anymore. And I'm not too sure how to fix that. Elegantly, at least. I'm going to ignore it for now and claim it's a feature, because I cannot think of a good enough way to fix that. I want to add something else. I want to make this start looking a bit better. Now that we have a whole rotation-y thing, we can edit this so that it's not just a square. We can make it be more interesting, I guess. We can make it thinner. So let's start off by checking that that works. Let's take off 3 pixels on each side. I guess I could use the eraser tool. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Cool. And now let's take off 3 pixels up here as well. 3 pixels down here. Here and here. And what we should see is that the body will rotate as well, because our code does that. Oh, but of course we don't have angles anymore. So that is the next thing to work on, getting rotation, like rotated snake pieces to work. So we need to think about this. I think we can no longer work with just the grid index system, which is a shame because it was pretty cool. Let's think about this. We need to know when a piece is rotating. So I guess we could store 2 pieces of information. The previous rotation, the previous position. Can anyone think of a neat solution to this problem? I can't think of one that would be especially neat. Every time you want to add graphics, it just breaks your code, doesn't it? I should have thought about this before, but I guess problem solving is interesting. So we want to be able to get these angles to be a new sprite, a new tile, I guess. So we need to know when a piece rotated. So we can use probably the previous and the next to store, to figure out what rotation, what piece to get. So inside our dir grid, we can store the current direction and the previous direction. That will tell us in what direction we moved. So let's do that. And we can do this in a single grid fairly easily because we know that we're only going to be storing 4 values, right? It's, sorry, 4 bits. 2 bits actually. It's 2 bits because it's 0, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, so over here we're going to do dir or dir bit shifted by 2. Snake update. Here we're going to store the snake dir, but we're also going to store the previous snake dir. Oh, which just changed. Are we using snake dir? We're using previous snake dir, not really. So we can actually move this to the end of this update. And here we can say the direction was that. This would be snake dir. Let's think about this. We no longer need to store this because over here we do snake dir or with previous snake dir bit shifted by 2. When we init the snake direction, this is interesting. When we now add this thing to a tile map, we are looking at the direction. So let's just do a quick. Okay, so if we are not the head and not the tail, we can do tile data or equals our tile flags for, tell you what, let's just do this, var tile dir equals the direction ANDed with, so we don't want the previous one, we want the current one. No, we want the previous one in this. No, we want the current one in this case. So we're doing ampersand 3, I guess. And if it's the tail, we want to do tile dir equals this, but ampersanded with the next few bits. So if we're not looking at 3, we're looking at 5, is it? I'll need to think about this. Let's see. It's 0, 0, 0. Well, these 2 bits. We're looking about these 2 bits here. So this is 1, 2, 4, 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. So we want to ampersand it with 12. And here we can use tile dir. This is starting to look a bit twiddly. Can the tail disappearing be solved by just simply adding 1 to every cell of the grid when the snake eats food? I think that would make the problem worse. Because the tail only works when it's 1. If that makes sense. I think we'll be able to solve it when we get all of our bit twiddling tile dir things in. We got an error. Out of range. Out of range. Inside snake grid, tile data or equals global tile flags and tile dir. Why would we get? Oh right, we want to. Let's just bit shift that by 2 bits. That should fix our issue. Okay, so our tail is wrong now. Because it's looking at the previous direction. If we remove this, what do we get? Do we get the next direction? Right, yes. So we need to go back inside here. We want this back in, but inside snake update, we want this also back in, and we want to OR it with this stuff right here. I feel I didn't want to create, like I could have, in the other, we sort 1 from every cell. Yes. But if we add 1 to every cell, then it will be 1 more still. Like, the problem is that we have too high a value when we eat a pill. So if we just add 1, we'll just make it even higher still. We want it to be 1 lower. If, however, when we eat something, we subtract everything by 1, then our tail will be shorter by 1 momentarily until we reach the point. I think just by using the counting method, adding 1 to each cell delays the update. Yes, but it will also mean we don't have a tail for this entire time. Like if we add 1 to every cell, that means we don't have a cell which is 1. And if we add 1 to every cell, all of our 0 tiles become 1. And so we get tiles everywhere. The direction thing isn't working. Not sure why. It's not looking at the right one. Here we're saying that we get snake deer and previous snake deer. Okay, if I go back in here, and I just look at, and I remove this should be the same as before. That should be just the same as before. Yeah, okay, so this is fine. Now let's add our rotation piece, I guess. This is annoying me already. Here we go. Let's add image resize, I guess. Let's just make it 96 in height. Oh, that didn't work because that's tools, image. Can I resize canvas? Here we go. We want this to be top, middle, height 96. And so now we can create our rotated section. I think that's about right. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, we need one more here. Then 1, 2, 3. Here. No, what am I doing? Yeah, we want 1, 2, 3 here. 1, 2, 3 here. And this is probably the wrong orientation, isn't it? Yes, it's going to be the wrong orientation. Let's undo this whole thing. Start again. We want well, we can figure let's figure out the code first and decide on what the actual thing becomes later, because what we want to do is if var tile dir p equals snake dir grid bit shift 2 times. We can say if tile dir is not equal to tile dir p, this is when we have tile data equals 4. But now we need to calculate what the rotation should be based on the previous direction and the current direction. Because the previous direction is going to tell us where we were, and so if we're going like this and then here, we can get the opposite of the previous direction. Ooh, this is a mathematical weirdness thing. There might just be a simple way to do this. There might also not be a simple way to do this. This is trickier than I thought it would be. Trying to do everything with bits and directions and stuff. Let's see, Snake, is it actual GMS mechanic? Oh yeah, that's called the accessors. If you look up accessors, you should find, yeah, this is for accessing a grid, this is for accessing a map, this is for accessing a list. I think that's it. Yeah, really quite useful actually. It is actual GMS2. I pretty much only use actual GMS2. Let's first of all see if this tile data thing works. Make sure this is not going to work out of the box because we don't have a tile. Let's create a quick temporary everything, it's probably going to be the wrong everything really. But we can check that that we get a rotation piece. Then we just have to figure out how to rotate it. Yeah, so we get the rotation piece when we rotate. Now we just need to figure out how to rotate that rotation piece based on the current and previous direction. We could just have a big lookup table. Yeah, we could just have a big lookup table, and it might be what I'll do because I can't. Maybe as I build the lookup table, I'll figure out the algorithm. So let's do global dot C for its compound tile flags. These names are terrible, but oh well. So the first one we're looking at is left up, I guess. Let's see, no, left will give us 0. So we don't want to change anything. Then we have left up. This will be 1. So if we're going left, if we were going left and then we go up, we want at this rotation thing. So currently our tile is bent this way, so we want to flip it. So we want tile flip. Then we have left right, which is not possible, so we're going to use 0 again. Then we have left down, and so for left down, let's see, we're going left down, so our current thing needs to be mirrored. So tile mirror. This might be quite a bit of coding because now we're going left. We did all the directions, so now it's up, left. So if we were going up and now we're going left, we want to do nothing because that's what our current tile is like. I'll actually just put a comment here so I remember. So the bend is going like, is there a letter on this? It's like a 7, right? It's going up and left. This is the shape of our tile. So if we're going up left, I'll just here we go. Terrible comment, but it's just so I can visualize things in my head. After up left, we have up, which is not a change, so we just have 0. Then we have up right, is it? Yeah. So up right, we want to mirror our tile. Then we get up, down. So if we were going up and now we're going down, that's actually not possible, so we can skip this one. Then up, down, we get right, left, which is nothing, so we get 0. Right, up. So if we were going right, now we're going up, we want to flip our tile. I should call this bend tile flag. Makes more sense. If we're going, so right up, now we're going right down. No, right, which is not possible, so we get 0 again. And then right down. So right down, is the same because we can reuse bends over and over. That may not be the case. We may need to change some of these as we made the graphics more complicated, but with the current sprite we can reuse it. So we have right down, and then we have down, left. So if we were going down and now we're going left, we need to do two things. I think we need to both flip and mirror. Yeah. So we got tile, flip, or tile, mirror. Wait, no, down, left. No, we don't need to, we just need to flip it. There we go. Then we have down, up, which is just 0. That's not a thing. Then we have down, right, I'm assuming. Sure. So if we were going down, now we're going right. We want to... Is that when we need to flip and mirror? Because right now it's like this, but we want it like that. Yeah, I think we need to tile, flip, or tile, mirror. Is this right? Because down right, what about right down? Going to the right, and now we're going down. Okay, now we're going down, right, yes, okay. Maybe that's right. So down right, and then down, down, isn't it? Which is just 0. So that should be our bend tile flags. So it's assuming the first few bits are... Oh, this might not be right. This could work. Maybe this... These are flipped. Okay, we're gonna try anyways. See what happens. They may be flipped. But basically, the first 2 bits are this one, next 2 bits are those. So inside snake grid, whatever, we can say... Let's put this... Inside an else statement. We can clean this up later. Or never, because this is a stream. I'm not actually making production code. Till data or equals global dot bend tile flags, and we're gonna take this whole thing here because it's already been bit twiddled for us. So this is probably not gonna work because I just realized I got my things the wrong way around. Okay, this is almost right. Right, it's almost okay. For just the frame, the angle's wrong as well. Huh, for just the frame you become... Right. Because being the head is more important than being a bend. So I should say, let's get this one in here. Let's get this one in here. Let's remove this. Not super nice. I'll have to fix that later if I ever want to publish this code. Oh no. No, our bodies don't get rotated. Okay, oh, of course they don't. Okay, let's get tile data and then var tile flags equals. This will be our default tile flags. Here we can say tile flags equals flags equals. We're doing tile data or tile flags. And I guess we can rename this a tile index to be more accurate. That should almost do it. So yes, our rotations are correct. Almost correct. So which one is it wrong? It's going from left to up, which is wrong. But we can fix that because it's just a simple thing. So left up. Or is it up left? Let's try left up first. Left up here, tile flip. So all I do is flip this. I need to mirror it as well, don't I? So there might be some pattern to this. Alright, now going left up works. Huh. I'm actually slightly surprised this turned out like it did. I didn't think it would work quite so easily. I mean, it was a bit of data to write, but I'm sure I can algorithmize it, as in make it into an algorithm. Oh, there's something weird that happens when you eat. No? Did you guys not see? There was a weird bug at some point. Oh, when you go up and you eat a food pellet, you get a weird bug. Oh, I didn't see it this time. Maybe it's only when you rotate and you just eat something? Yes. When you just rotate before you eat something, that seems to be an issue. Let's try to reproduce it here. Oh, maybe I'm just too bad at this game to reproduce this bug. Okay, so I'm not sure why, but just as you eat something, it breaks the rotation. It breaks the... Huh. I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure if it's something I should worry about now, given that this stream is probably going to end soon-ish, because I think it's been 2 hours. But there does seem to be some bugs. Not really surprised, given the amount of stuff that goes into, like, this directions bit twiddling thing was kind of a hack. There was probably a better way of writing this code. No, there was definitely a better way of writing this code. But I did like the idea of pretty much this, right? This and this being the only two lines that really make the snake move. But it's probably not. There's probably a reason why. Well, there's definitely a reason why you wouldn't use it, is that it gets a lot more complicated once you're dealing with directions and more complicated sprites. But as you saw earlier, it worked pretty well for just the basic snake game, without all the direction sprites and everything. There is one more thing I want to try. First of all, I'm going to fix this sprite to make it a bit nicer. I'm going to make everything 1 pixel shorter as well, so we can see stuff more easily. And then I want to try making the sprites more interesting with one last trick. And one last trick that you can do with the directions thing. That's wrong. I'm going to remove some more from here. Let's see if this looks right, and then that will be the last trick. The rotations don't look quite right, but... Oh, interesting. The tail is also more important than the bend, isn't it? So... Here we go. Oh, but now we get the wrong direction. Because here I say tile flags right. Because this gets triggered before this. So we need... this is a case when we just need if-elses everywhere. Else, if, else. If I actually want to move... I actually want to move this guy up here. So that this guy is only done at the end. So most important is the tail, next is the head, next is the bends, and that should fix our issue. Yep, so now our tail gets drawn correctly. I think that might fix as well the issue of when we were eating stuff. So let's try to reproduce it real quick. Oh no, it didn't fix it. So I'm not too sure where that issue is coming from. Something I'll have to figure out later. For some reason when you eat something it acts differently. I don't see why. I'll figure that one out later. I don't feel like debugging that because there is this last thing I wanted to try. So what I want to do is have two different bodies, and that's kind of to animate our thing somewhat. So I'm going to move, let's see, I'm going to move our body, I'm going to move the tail to be last. I'm going to move this body down here. And the head, I'm going to move up here. And I'm going to copy this body, which is just actually a rectangle. Oh, cancel selection, I guess. And I want kind of like I want to make it look like it's kind of like moving like a snake would move. So I'm going to remove some layers on one side, kind of add them back on the other side. Like that. And ooh, I guess I could just flip it over and over. Yes, actually, instead of having two bodies, I could flip, or no, you know what, I'm just going to use two different bodies, which will allow me to do more interesting things maybe in the future if I ever choose to continue working on this. But I can just do this. That way, if I want like the body to have a certain color scheme, I can still make that work. So now I need to, so head is 1, body is 2 and 3, bend is 4, tail is 5. So head is 1. What did I say this was? Is this still 4? Yeah. Tail is, this is body, which is 2 and 3. Head is 1, 2 and 3. Yeah, tail is 4, 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. So now I can do 2. What I can do is say snake grid modulo 2. So based on the age, I can do 2 or 3, and now we should see it slither. So by modulating by 2, I'll be alternating between 1 and 0, 1 and 0, and we can see it kind of slither along. Oh, although now it just looks like it's okay, so it's not quite right because we all want it to change every. We will want it to change. Okay, so it sometimes works, sometimes it just looks like it's moving straight along. Does this look right? It doesn't look like it's slithering that much. We will want, okay, what we can do is get an update counter. Update counter equals 0, and we can just add 1 to it every frame. Snake timer. How was that even working? And then inside update snake, we can actually, this should be inside update snake. And inside our snake grid, whatever, we can add update counter here, and that will make it alternate nicely, I think. And of course we get update counter not being a variable. I mean, I created it here. I thought I copied and pasted it. What was the issue? Update counter not set before reading it. I set it right here. Let's clean and rebuild, see what's going on. Nope, still doesn't work. What did I do wrong? I think update counter, which but I call this right here, so I need to set this up here before I actually call. Yeah, so now it should, when I go in a straight line, it should flip between the two. It should look like I'm. Does that look right? I'm not sure. Oh, it looks. What do you guys think? Does that look like a snake moving around? I guess the next step now is cosmetic, still making this rounder and so on. And you could kind of use the same technique to this is terrible. You could use the same technique to have multiple tails, multiple of these rounded sections. But yeah, I would definitely recommend to find a better way of updating your snake position. Maybe you could keep a list of all the positions and so on, rather than always subtracting one from the whole grid. Once you start dealing with directions, because as you could see, it gets a little bit messy. When you're dealing with directions and stuff, ooh, there was that bug again. I have no idea why this is there. But I feel like this may be a nice end to this stream. It had been a while since I streamed, so I hope this was interesting. I feel like I got a couple, well, interesting things I want to try out. So I did kind of want to see how using the grid functions to update the snake would end up. I was debating whether to use the tile map data directly to do all of that, but that would have meant even more bit twiddling than I'm already doing. So I'm glad I didn't go that route. This is strange. I thought this would flip the image every frame, but it doesn't seem to be. Like, I thought that a single tile would flip every time. Oh, I guess that makes... So I'm trying to end this stream, but like, I'm quite invested in this project now. Okay, maybe this looks better, actually. Maybe this looks more like it's slithering along. Or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you prefer it with or without the update thing? Anyhow, there's obviously still bugs laying around. My bit-dwindling code is a bit weird. I'm not sure why I'm getting that particular bug where it's displaying an angle as soon as I eat something. Probably because I'm not setting the previous and next directions correctly. Definitely something I should... Oh, I might have an idea as to why it's working, doing it that way. But I'm not going to fix this right now. I don't think I have the time because I need to end this stream. Yeah, so I'll be trying to make more streams in the future. I hadn't been able to do many videos or streams for that matter in the past couple months because of university and so on, but I think I'll be able to squeeze more videos in at least in the future because my schedule isn't as busy. So if you guys have any ideas of to what you would want to see, you can contact me on Twitter and so on. I think you should have all of that information already. Whilst you're on Twitter, check out Concept Boy's stuff. I think Seabass was here. Is that the same Seabass? I don't know. If he was there as well, check out his stuff as well. It's pretty cool stuff. This is the longest sign off I've done in a while. So also, if you guys are on the GMC, on the Game Maker community, let's actually bring this up now. There is Secret Santa going on. So if you guys are part of the GMC, definitely join that. It's always a lot of fun. I'll put the link to it in the chat right now. I think I'll be taking part. I think I signed up, didn't I? Yes. So if you guys have a bit of time and are part of the GMC community, I definitely recommend you guys join that. It'll be a lot of fun. I think there was also I think it's over though, the GMC Jam. It's probably over. I didn't take part in that. I was a bit too busy, but I don't think voting has ended. So if you guys want to check those out, November 26th. Oh yeah, it's definitely. Yeah, voting is not over, I think. So you guys should also check that out. Again, if you're part of the GMC. It's in the jam section. So with that, I'll see you guys. That's personal emails right there. I'll see you guys next time. More streams, probably, if I get the time. More videos, I really hope, because I have a couple ideas. But as I said, I wanted to do some videos on tile data and also on some of these direction things, because you can do some, especially like this tile flags thing. Something that I've noticed a lot of people actually have trouble with the mirroring and rotating of tiles because it's not super obvious, especially if you do it with tile data in general isn't super obvious. So I think I'll be making a tutorial on that, so watch out for that. I don't know when I'll have time to do it. Probably, I hope before the end of this year. And yeah, so I'll see you guys next time. It was really fun having you guys.